What's going on, everyone? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. I finally got my office back. My little one is back at school. My wife is back at work. I got a construction company coming to put up a door to my office so my kids won't be coming in and out and asking me for random stuff throughout the day. So I am excited. I got a list of some Aesop rock to get to, as well as some others. I've been wanting to do another Akala one, get back into some Toby Wigway. Just really craving getting back into this. It's kind of fun to me. It's what I do during the day. And we've been really growing the channel. We're making that push to 700 subscribers soon. We just started this really 2 months ago. So it's been growing nice. We really want to build our platform. So if you like what we do, make sure to show some love, not just by liking the video or watching the video, but subscribing to the channel, as we're definitely going to get into a lot more Aesop rock. I really like the challenge and the different interpretations. When someone told me about Aesop rock, I went into Daylight. No, what did I do first? I did two songs, but when I did Daylight, man, did I not know what I was getting myself into. I don't think I've had anything as challenging as that ever. But it was exciting. You know, it's kind of like completing a crossword puzzle. Or I don't know if you guys ever play Trivial Pursuit, right? I love that sort of stuff. But really excited to get into this one. This one is what is it? It's a "You Shall Not Pass," right? I saw the title. I was like, ooh, I got the whole beard going. I got a cane and a walking stick here somewhere. So I was kind of excited. I felt like this one spoke to me. So, let's check it out. It looks like it's a bit older, right? Just going down here, if I jump back to the lyrics, these are official lyrics. It says November 10th, 2013. So this is almost 10 years old. I think for the next song that we do, I'll take some of your requests. I know a lot of you have sent me comments like, hey, check out this Aesop song. I kind of just pull it up, see where I could find the lyrics. And if I could find one and it kind of speaks to me, I mean, man, I didn't realize until somebody pointed it out, man, his catalog is just huge. Because this is all new to me, I mean, we have like kind of endless content here for a while, especially because there's different interpretations. Just playing Daylight back, I actually made a mistake of using a lyric video that just didn't have good lyrics. And now just hearing the right lyrics, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. But I love that the interpretation is kind of based on your life experiences, right? I kind of said this last video, kind of reminds me of Slumdog Millionaire. And I always tell my wife that about, I always have these stories, right? Where people are talking, I make it a point to not one up anybody. But I always have stories because of my life. And, I grew up in the inner city of Chicago. I saw a lot of things. Then I was able to go to college and become a fraternity guy, and I started a marketing company and grew a family and got involved with some investment properties, and I just kind of did things my own way. But along that path, I've seen everything from someone possibly getting shot, guns being pulled on me, inner city crime, fraternity shenanigans, to all the beautiful things that you see as a family. So it's given me a unique perspective. I can normally find that balance where education meets entertainment, but also thug life meets middle class suburbia, right? Because I live in a great suburb now, a western suburb of Chicago, but that doesn't mean you can take the boy out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the boy, right? But I love that because, listening to hip hop and doing these breakdowns, sometimes it's a unique perspective. And I love that with Aesop Rock, the audience is completely different. I love that it's people like, yeah, I don't really like rap. Right? I felt like that way for many years, and I started getting into other types of entertainment, other types of music, because this rap wasn't doing it. There's no substance there for a lot of it. But anyway, let's get right into this. Really excited about this one. This is, I believe it's "You Shall Not Pass," or None Shall Pass. I just keep thinking of Lord of the Rings. Love that movie. But hopefully there's some references, right? I always do that with the kids, and I had to show them You shall not pass. I should do that if I keep growing out the beard. It was originally a COVID beard, and then just fun fact, I used to work more in the corporate world. I owned a marketing company. Then I got involved with managed IT and did some work with diversity, equity, and inclusion teams, the EI teams, and I always worried about my appearance. Right, I'm a bigger guy. I'm over 300 pounds. I'm 6'2", and I just wanted to have a really clean cut look. So I was always just razor bald, and I shaved my beard. I did the monkey suit with the shirt and tie. But when I got out of that world and I can actually be home most of my time, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be me. I kind of want to get back to my identity, right? Not corporate me, not spill-proof khaki pants and, stuff like that. I just want to get back to my gear, my hat, right? The things that I want to do now that I'm an older person. But let's get into this. I can be verbose, right? I did not expect such a playful beat here. Maybe we should listen to it first and then come back and then do the breakdown. But actually go through it first.
Flash that water and go. Jittery zeitgeist with about a watering hole. Water patrol, water with a heart. How could be your buckery suddenly? Not enough young in his lung for the water wing. Colorfully bold, poacher at a mooch like I'm a water set a soldier and bolt. Sign of the time we elapse when a primate climb up a spine and attach. Head from an eye by the bog like swamps and blinds. They get a rise out of frogs and flies. When a talk fights off type price.
Okay, I can't let some of this break. There's some parts there that I've already seen.
Water patrol, water with a heart. How could be your buckery suddenly? Not enough young in his lung for the water wing. Colorfully bold, poacher at a mooch like I'm a water set a soldier and bolt. Sign of the time we elapse when a primate climb up a spine and attach. Head from an eye by the bog like swamps and blinds. They get a rise out of frogs and flies. When a talk fights hog type price, water close to life. The mouse water on a fork and knife. And the allure is the right. No score on a war-torn beach where the cash cows actually beef. Blood turns fire when a leap from police like that's not a riot.
Yeah, I'm already getting some ideas here. It already seems like he's either talking about rap or he's talking about the police. But, I think it's good. I might start having to do this with Aesop. I think with Daylight, I kind of went into it cold and I was like, what did he say? And then you have to do a lot more context. But I realized with a lot of these artists, right, we've been doing Lupe Fiasco. We've been doing like just really lyrically dense artists. But a lot of times they're connecting. The wordplay is not just as simple as bar for bar. A lot of times, and I saw this with Aesop, he's taking a bar at the beginning and it's matching with a bar in the middle and he's tying it up at the end. But if you don't listen to it all, you might miss the meaning of the first interpretation because you didn't wait to, you might have to go back to something. But I just think it's the way that he creates this work is just, it should be studied, right? They study other artists, but they got people like Jay-Z, and I get it. Jay-Z has a unique story and unique flow, but the depth, right? The substance. I don't think I've ever heard another artist like this. I did do some Lupe Fiasco that was challenging, but it's different. Right, a lot of times there's political references or cultural references that if you don't know, it's going to be very difficult to interpret the translation. But with AES, with Aesop, I feel like it's more vocabulary, but it's like it's not just metaphors, right? It's synonyms and homophones, right? I don't want to say homophones, but it's more complex. Which I just think is wonderful. But let's let it ride.
And I will remember your name and face on the day you were judged by the funhouse cast. So listen, you a fall from grace when I came to the sky like
none shall pass. None shall pass or you shall not pass. It's one of those weird things, right? Like you hear people say that, what is that called? I can't think of it for right now. What is that theory that things are very different when you might go your whole life thinking something is some way, and then you go back and then it was nothing like that to begin with. And people are like, am I fucking crazy? Right? It's like the Bernstein Bears, right? Now, Bernstein Bears, a lot of people thought it was spelled a certain type of way. They revisit the book, and it never was spelled that way. Kind of like Star Wars, right? People say, Luke, I am your father. And then you go back and it's like, those were never really the words, were they not? Fruit Loops, right? Was it actually Fruit Loops? Or did they, is it spelled different? Jif versus Jiffy, right? Peanut butter. My God, I can't believe I can't think of the phenomenon, if you would. It'll come to me. But let's start from the beginning. I think I heard enough just to give me a little bit. Let's raw dog this, right? Let's get into it.
Flash that buttery gold, jittery zeitgeist with a bottle watering hole. Water patrol, water with a heart, how could be your fuckery suddenly? Not enough younginers long for the water wing, colorfully bold, poacher at a mulch like I'm a portable set of soldier and bolts. Sign of the time we elapsed when a primate climb up a spine and attach.
Yeah, it was going to drive me crazy. I pulled it up here. It's called the Mandela effect, right? It's just one of those things that you have to go back and maybe we say, you shall not pass, right? If we say that enough, that just kind of becomes what it means. And then you look back 20 years later, you watch the movie and it's like, oh, damn, have I been fucking up my whole life? But anyway, let's get to the movie. Let's get back to the song. I like that. I love that. I just have to call out that I love that it doesn't sound like everyday regular hip hop, right? It doesn't sound like that lyrically, but also listen to the arrangement there. It sounds very playful, if you would. Oh, I didn't even hear they were saying something. There's no lyrics to that, huh? Trying to help. Trust me, I'm trying to help.
Flash that buttery gold, jittery zeitgeist with a bottle watering hole. Water patrol, water with a heart, how could be your fuckery suddenly? Not enough younginers long for the water wing, colorfully bold, poacher at a mulch like I'm a portable set of soldier and bolts. Sign of the time we elapsed when a primate climb up a spine and attach. And I by the bog like swamps and blinds to get a rise out of frogs and flies. When a 12 fights all time. That's what it goes to life, the mouse water on a fork and knife, and the allure is the right. No score on a war-torn beach where the cash cows actually based. Blood turns fire when I leap for police like this. Not a riot, it's a beast.
Yeah, I definitely think this is going to be about police. But what is it? Police killings? Is it police behavior? Is it like the fraternal brotherhood of police? It definitely sounds like, the lawyers were writing no score on a war-torn beach.
Remember your name and face on the day you were judged by the front house cast. Will rejoice in your fall from.
Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna get right to it this time. I know it's in like almost 15 minutes. I'm only on like 5 seconds into the track. Now, if we're talking about police, right? I guess that could be police or rap, but it definitely seems like there's some, just going through the song, it seems like there's definitely some things that stand out about the police. He said, flash that buttery gold, right? At first glance, I would probably think that's about rap, right? Flashy, being flashy, you're flashing that gold. But flashing, you normally would hear that when they talk about a police officer. What do? They flash their badge, right? They're showing their identification or what they call their credentials. Buttery gold, that could mean different things. I'm from Chicago, so there's different types of badges, right? It's normally either silver or gold. If I'm not mistaken, a silver is for like your beat cop kind of deal, your kind of lower level cop. And gold means that you're a detective. But I imagine that that's not the same for police forces in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, right? So, but think of a gold badge or a silver badge. But that sounds to me like he's flashing the badge. Jittery zeitgeist, wither by the watering hole. What a patrol. Obviously, the use of patrol stands out to something that's about a cop. But let's dig a little bit into this, right? Jittery, somebody who's nervous, right? Zeitgeist is, I guess there could be different meanings. There was also a movie that was like about conspiracy theories, but normally you're talking about something like sociology, right? Or you're talking about something. It's like cultural. It's basically taking. It's like the outlook of a culture, right, or a certain group of people. But it's more like the attitude, like the way people are perceived, right? Like if I was looking at cops, if we were talking about cops, I would think of it as something like how cops are perceived in the state of the world today, right? And it would make sense that he's talking about jittery because he could be nervous. He could be nervous because he doesn't know if he's going to get shot. He could be nervous because he doesn't like the way the police force is going. He doesn't like maybe seeing corruption. He could be a good cop, right? It doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad cop. We don't have anything to support that yet. We just know that he flashes his badge, and he's a little bit nervous about the way that people maybe perceive cops or interact with cops. But he says wither, right? When you think of something withering away, you normally think of a plant dying or decaying. The watering hole is obviously liquor, right? A bar of some sort. So it sounds like he might be nervous about his life, and he's getting older, and he's drinking some beers, maybe with the homies, and he's discussing life, or he's talking about his job, right? What a patrol. Cops patrol, that's what they do. But when I also think of patrol, you can think of a security guard, let's say patrolling a construction site or whatnot. And normally what they're doing is they're walking around and they're guarding something, right? So I would think this could, when we talk about with somebody withering away at the watering hole, what a patrol, it could mean like the cycles of life, right? It could be talking about, I went another year around the old another year around the globe kind of deal. At least that's my interpretation of it, my limited interpretation so far. But he said, what are we to Hart Huckabee? Art fuckery suddenly. Not enough young in his lung for the water wings. I keep thinking I could just scroll for the lyrics, but I have to let it play. Let's hear some context here.
Watering hole, water patrol, what are we to Hart Huckabee? Art fuckery suddenly. Not enough young in his lung for the water wing. Colorfully vulgar poacher at a mooch like I'm a portable set of soldier and bolts. Watering hole, water patrol, what are we to Hart? Flash that water and go. Jittery zeitgeist with about the watering hole, water patrol, what are we to Hart Huckabee? Art fuckery suddenly. Not enough young in his lung for the water wing.
So Hart Huckabee and art fuckery suddenly. Not enough young. So it sounds like it's also playing, right? He said wither away. It sounds like he's getting old, he's drinking, he's talking about life possibly. So what are we to Hart Huckabee? Art fuckery suddenly, right? There's something that's changing. He said not enough young, right? So play off withering away. So it sounds like somebody who's definitely getting old. There's not enough young in his lung for the water wings. Water wings are something my 5-year-old would wear when we get in the pool, right? It's something that prevents you from drowning. So Hart Huckabee, art fuckery, that can mean a variety of different things. Huckabee, I don't know. We'll have to get back to that when we hear. So Mike Huckabee, right? This was 2013. When did Mike Huckabee run for president? Did he run against Obama or was it Trump? I got to think about that, but that's the only person I could think of that's not a common last name, right? Huckabee. What are we to Hart Huckabee? Okay, so either Hart Huckabee is a name, or it's like who are we to love, right? I don't know if Mike Huckabee did something, or maybe he had a position at that time that was unique. I'm really interested to hear context or see if there's some other wordplay with that. It doesn't sound like it based on what I've seen, but we're going to come back to this.
Colorfully vulgar poacher at a mulch like I'm a portable set of soldier and bolts. Sign of the time we elapse when a primate climb up a spine and attach. Sign of the time we elapse when a primate mulch like I'm a totally not enough young and as long for the water wing. Colorfully vulgar poacher at a mulch like I'm a portable set of.
See, now this is interesting because it does sound like he's talking about police, right? Colorfully vulgar poacher, right? You think of a poacher or somebody who's hunting out of mulch, colorfully vulgar. I think police officers are known for using vulgar language for sure, but out of mulch, right? He could be playing on, he already said withering away, right? He could be playing on mulch like shit or fertilizer, dirt, right? He could actually colorfully vulgar poacher out of mulch. So it sounds like he could be talking about a dirty cop, right? This colorfully vulgar poacher out of mulch. When you come out of mulch, you're dirty, right? You're going to be filthy even. He said, I'm gonna pull the pulse out of soldier and bolt. At first glance, you might think this is about war, right? But think about this. If you know hip hop and some of the songs in hip hop, soldiers are normally referred to as not thugs, but like an urban way of living, right? They would call themselves soldiers from Tupac to Destiny's Child, right? Beyonce, I need a soldier, right? And then what is Lil Wayne comes in and he says, "You're looking for a soldier? I'm the general. I need I like my thing with the deep waves. Know how to split their money 3 ways. You're Beyonce, right? I'm a thing. If your style ain't hood, I ain't checking for you. Better be street. If you're looking at me, I need a soldier." Right? So a soldier is somebody who's like a street dude. And you hear Nas talk about it too. And he talks about him as I need someone who's a thug and intelligent too, like a real thoroughbred is, right? And they keep referring to it as being a soldier. So I'm going to pull the pulse out of soldier and bolt. Means that you're going to kill somebody, right? You're going to kill one of these thugs, whether they're wannabe thugs or not, and dip, right? And bolt. Fine. And bolt. Fine. I'm going to pull the pulse out of soldier and bolt. Sign of the time we elapse, right? So he's talking about time. Maybe he's reminiscing. This is what's going on in the world today. When a primate climb up a spine and attach, right? When you think of primate, what do you think of? I think of monkey, right? Where you think you climb up the spine and you attach. It's saying there's a monkey on my back, right? Monkey on my back is just a sign. It normally means addiction. It's like when something negative. It's I don't think I've ever heard it used in a positive sense, right? If there's a monkey on my back, there's some sort of negative situation. Normally refers to as addiction that's taking over you, right? Willfully imposing itself, right? But it definitely sounds like you're dealing with something that's out of your control.
Soldier and bolt. Sign of the time we elapse when a primate climb up a spine and attach. And I better block like swamps and blinds to get a rise out of fox and flies. When a dog fights off to a price, what a close to life, the mouse what a time we elapse when a primate climb up a spine and attach. And I better block like swamps and blinds to get a rise.
By the bog life, that's interesting.
Rise out of fox and flies. When a dog fights off to a price, what a close to life, the mouse what a fork and knife. And a primate climb up a spine and attach.
Okay, so eye for an eye. I think most of us, eye for an eye. It's normally thought of, I guess, as a commandment, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's the Book of Exodus. I'm not really too good when it comes to religion, but basically it means measure for measure, right? Eye for an eye, if you do something to someone, they should have the right to do it to you as well. And this goes back, I believe, to the Romans, right, where they had like the law of retaliation. It's basically the same principle that you can be punished by doing something to the same degree as someone did to you. Um, so I think that that's definitely what he's referring to. And now we can think about this different ways, right? So we could first, I think, we want to go with a bog, right? What's a bog? A bog is something, I guess you could think of kind of like quicksand, but it's not as deadly. A bog, you could think of like a cranberry bog, but you're normally not going to die in a bog. The reason it's deceiving is there's something called peat, right? That it might look like something that can support your weight, but it doesn't support your weight. It's like dead stuff that kind of goes to the top of a bog, and you might be stepping on stones trying to get across. But if you step on one of these, it's something that's going to pull you down. I guess you could get normally it's not too deep. A bog, and I might be really off here, but a bog is normally, I don't know if by definition it's not deep, but I've never heard of a bog that you're going to like, you might drown, you might struggle, but you're not going to lose your life, right? So eye for an eye by the bog life, swamps and swamps. There's different ways to it. They get a rise out of frogs and flies. That's deep. So when a dog fights hog-tied prize, sort of costs a life. Ooh, the mouse water on a fork and knife. So the way I would interpret that is I would definitely think of, eye for an eye. I think that's like the same as we would typically get. But I think it's important to see if you're talking about somebody that's bog life, this is something where, again, you're not going to die, but you're going to struggle. You're going to, it's almost impossible to just get through it. You're like trapped, right? You got to handle it the same way that you would handle what do you call it? Quicksand, right? You got to not move. The quicker you move, the quicker you can sink. So it could be, you think about police and they're, bog life. He could be talking about. It sounds like he's talking about the play on. This could be bad cops, right? Bog life could be a metaphor of trap, right? People that are in trap houses. Trap houses are houses that sell drugs in the hood. You might hear of trap music, right? Trap music talks about violence, violent crime, and drugs, and kind of glorifies that. Swamps and swine, thinking of police and pigs, right? Eye for an eye by the bog life, swamps and vines. I would think of it as, some people are stuck in the swamp. They're struggling, and maybe the police are swinging on vines, right? Or this is like a higher class person or perceived to be a higher class person. You can also connect it with the primates, right? And swinging on the vines. But I think it's cool. They get a rise out of frogs and flies, right? Getting a rise out of someone is like you're getting a little woody, right? You're getting, this is something that is exciting to them. So they get a rise out of frogs and flies. That could be police catching the flies, right? Flies are always around shit, right? Frogs always go after the flies, and it's relatively easy to catch them. But it sounds like this could be some cops and robbers kind of talk. Get a rise out of frogs and flies. But it's interesting what he says here. When a dog fights hog-tied prize, sort of cost a life, right? A dog fight, right? You think of a dog going to a prize that's hog-tied, right? What's hog-tied? When your arms and feet are tied together, so you're basically helpless. So this could be, again, police brutality, right? You got somebody who's already hog-tied. You could be killing them. I know this is before George Floyd and all of that, but you think about police brutality, and the hog-tied prize sort of costs a life. Why does it sort of cost a life? It could be because you don't value their life. Black Lives Matter. I know this is before that, but this is, it could be when sort of cost a life. He could be also talking about police brutality disproportionately happening in African American communities, right? Because think about, black men used to be considered property. And then even after that, when we start getting into politics after slavery, they were only considered 3/5 of a man, right? So it sort of cost a life, maybe because he's not really valued as such, not really tying it to Black Lives Matter, but just what a life costs. What's a life's worth, right? And to a lot of people, hence why Black Lives Matter was actually, started, is because police were killing people, and it just didn't seem like they even considered him a man, right? It's just, and this has been going on a lot longer than George Floyd, a lot longer than all these, Trayvon Martin. Who's Trayvon Martin? It's been a lot longer than Rodney King, right? It's just that there's a lot more cameras. There's a lot more eyes that are on the police, and it forces them to be accountable, right? And he said the mouth's water on a fork and knife. When your mouth's watering, you're like, oh, you love it, right? You know what I think is kind of funny? When you talk about a bog, right? I don't know if you guys have ever read like what is it called? Indiana Jones or like adventure books. But if you understand how to deal with if you understand how to deal with quicksand or how to deal with a bog, if you're sinking, the way that you would get out of that is really similar to how you would interact. Excuse me. It's really similar. I need a cough drop. It's really similar to how you would interact with the police, right? Because you have to make yourself as light as possible. And I don't mean literally, right? Like, damn, if I was white, this wouldn't be happening in the first place. No. But you gotta like toss your bag, right? Get rid of your coat, get rid of your book bag, get rid of your shoes, right? Anything that's gonna weigh you down. I don't mean just act white, right? Just make yourself as light as possible. And then you try to take a few steps backwards, right? You might have went down into something that's getting deeper. So try to backtrack. Now, if that doesn't work, you want to keep your arms up and out of the quicksand, right? So it doesn't weigh you down, right? Think about this. It's just like dealing with the cops, right? You take a few steps backwards, you get rid of, toss your weapon, toss your jacket, toss your stuff. And then what do? Right? You try to pull yourself out. Normally, you try to reach for a branch, you try to reach for something that can assist you in getting you up. And you got to, move slowly, move deliberately, just like you would with the police. Because if you go to reach for your identification, you might fuck around and lose your life, right? The same way as if you move too fast and you struggle, you'll die messing around in a bog or messing around with quicksand because you're only going to get deeper and deeper. That could be a metaphor with dealing with the police, right? Don't struggle, hands up, calm down, take deep breaths, and try to make very deliberate moves. And you have to make, you got to move slowly, but also deliberate moves. I think that could be, I don't know if that was his intent, but man, that would just be amazing if his lyrics were hiding that type of information. I don't know if it's just me, but again, the interpretation is also based off life experiences, right? You're dealing with some blackish dude, right? This ambiguous dude that's breaking down the lyrics. I might relate it to interactions with the police, but you might relate it to, dealing with NASA, right? Or dealing with becoming, into your profession. So it's really cool how these interpretations kind of come about.
Like swamps and blinds, they get a rise out of procs and flies. When a dog bites off, type price, sort of close to life. The mouse water with a fork and knife, and the allure isn't right. No score on a war-torn beach with a cash life. The mouse water with a fork and knife, and the allure isn't right. No score on a war-torn beach with a cash cow action.
He could be talking about, he's saying no score, right? Or the allure isn't right, right? It's not right that that the police deal with people this way. Police brutality it shouldn't be happening, right? There's so many people that don't say anything, right? They could be good cops, but There's definitely bad cops, and I would assume that the good cops know who those bad cops are, right? Silence is violence, right? If you see something, say something. That the next line, I think this is really important. He says, "No score on a war-torn beach," right? You think of playing a game. If there's no score, nobody wins. It kind of reminds me of when he said "eye for an eye," right? Because is it Gandhi? I think Gandhi says, "Eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind," right? Nobody's winning. So there's no score on a war torn beach. Um, I think it could be a really deep meaning, and I'd be willing to bet that it's something that's connected to that. So no score on a torn beach where the cash cows actually beef. Beef. What's beef, right? That's a Biggie song. Beef is when you have drama in the hood, it's called beef. Where the cash cows actually beef. Would that be in their own hood? What are cash cows? If I had to go back, I would probably be thinking about this in terms of music, right? No score, and I would say, man, the cash cows are probably rap artists, right? And beef is when you have beef with another artist. It's, drama, right? There's a battle that's coming about. But it's different. I don't know if you guys have an interpretation of cash cows. I'd love to hear it, but I think of, obviously, this cash cow is something that can make money relatively easy. That's, I don't know if there's another maybe more urban meaning to it or something that I'm missing. Blood turns wine when it leaks for police, right? Listen to what he's already said. He's already talking about this monkey on the back. He said mouth watering, right, with a fork and knife. So blood turns wine when it leaks for police. I think it's blood. Blood is just blood when it's people in the hood, right, where there's actually beef, right? It's simply blood. But when it comes to police, it turns into wine because they're being celebrated, right? If a cop takes someone's life in action, it's normally because he's seemingly protecting his own life, right? Or it's a very dangerous situation. That's been a problem in the hood for a while because, somebody might have died and he got 20 shots in the back, but there's a cop being celebrated. Why is he being celebrated? Could it be a justified shooting if someone is shot 20 times, right? Normally they do 2 shots, right? One is to maim and one is to kill, and the second is to kill if needed. But to justify, like with most police forces, you can't shoot someone in the back when they're running away, right? There has to be an imminent threat, almost like self-defense laws, right? But I think this would definitely, if we're still talking about police and police brutality, I would think, yeah, it's blood. If you're talking about where these dudes actually beef, but it's wine when it comes to police because they're being celebrated, right? This is a violence against minorities, right? They took someone's life. That's just that's jacked up. Like that. Like that's not a riot, it's a feast. Let's eat. Like that's not a riot, it's a feast. I would say that's about perspective, and again, perspective of the police, right? Like that's not a riot. He's looking at a riot, but he sees a feast. Let's eat, right? Think about what they said, right? The mouth's water on a fork and knife, right? They're not seeing things the same way as we do. They're viewing the gathering as an opportunity for blood. They're not there for the right reasons, right? So you can extract a lot from that.
Blood turns wine when it leaks for police. Like that's not a riot, it's a beast. And I will remember your name and face when I tell you a judge with a funhouse cast.
Funhouse cast. Funhouse. That's that. Isn't that the movie where there's a circus, like Killer Clowns or something? I remember your name and face on the day you were judged by the Funhouse cast. Funhouse cast. What's the dude's name? If I'm not mistaken, See, but his name's not Hart Huckabee. He could just be saying Huckabee. I think one of the dudes, if they, Tyler, I think there's a dude. If I remember the cast of Funhouse, there might be the dude that plays the boyfriend on that. I want to call him Tyler, but it's been a minute since I've looked at this. But I believe his last name might be Huckabee. Huckabee. No. Yeah, we'll have to come back to that. But it sounds like he's talking about the judgment day of police officers, right? Think about that. Like he's saying, I'll remember your name and face on the day you are judged. I got it still connected to the Funhouse cast. I think I might have it, but I don't know. I'm going to see if there's any other context they give us. And I will rejoice in your fall from grace with a cane to the sky, like none shall pass. I don't know if it's a biblical, if he's talking about, or if he's actually referring to Lord of the Rings. I'd like to think it's Lord of the Rings because I kind of dress like him. I'm in character, right? But I will rejoice. And you know what? You fall from grace. That's actually something that's normally a fall from grace is you're falling from this maybe idolized position, right? So fall from grace is normally how you would talk about if you were writing an article about a corrupt cop, right? You would refer to it as a fall from grace, or right, a politician that did something bad. So I definitely am seeing the signs. I think this is about you're going to be judged, right? Someday you're going to have to be held accountable. And it might not be to your superiors, right? It might be before an almighty being of some sort.
Listen, you're a fall from grace when I came to the sky like none shall pass.
And I just remembered a guy from that movie. His name was Buzz, not Tyler. That was for sure the in that movie. I don't know his real name. It could be Huckabee. He had a crazy name, or maybe Tyler's his real name. But that could be the dude. But I don't know what the significance would be of that guy, right? That's gonna drive me crazy.
None shall pass.
I think his name is Huckabee, the boyfriend from that movie. I don't know what the significance would be. I'll play it back after we go through it. Now, if you ever had a day a snow cone couldn't fix, you wouldn't relate to the rogue vocoder Blitz. How he spoke through a no-dose motor on the fritz, because he wouldn't play like a bitch. Damn, I didn't expect all that. You know what this actually still, as the deeper we get into the song, I'm thinking it's definitely about police brutality, right? Because he's saying if you never had a day a snow cone couldn't fix, meaning that you're, dare I say, privileged, right? But not privileged, but just not in the hood, right? If you don't have big, huge problems, you have what's called first world problems. It's going to be very hard for you to relate to, rogue vocoder Blitz. A vocoder, that's like it's not auto tunes, but it's a way of playing with sound effects, if you would, like manipulating your voice. The way I interpret that is actually I think of Police Academy, right? Think about Police Academy, a rogue vocoder Blitz that would be using a megaphone, right? It sounds like if you never had to deal with drama, you're probably not going to relate to this, right? A rogue cop or rogue someone storming, right, a group of protesters. What do they use? They always have someone that has a microphone. Everybody, it's time to disperse. They have sound effects, right? Vocoder blitz. It means they're using their megaphone. And if you've never been really there, you don't really know how loud and how distracting that could be. But the reason I connected it with to Police Academy is the next line: how he spoke through a no-dose motor on the fritz. Now, no-dose, a no-dose motor on the fritz. Uh, I don't. You can interpret that a variety of different ways, so we'll break it down. No dose is I think it's technically an energy supplement, but it's something that will keep you awake, right? No dose in coffee, like caffeine supplements, right? Um, that's what no dose is. I don't know if there's more of a meaning to that. Now, a lot of people that are struggling use no dose. They use it a lot in the hood if they're working multiple jobs. I'm sure cops use it as well. But motor on the fritz, I'm thinking of Motormouth. What is it? Motormouth Jones, right? Motormouth Jones uses the megaphone in Police Academy, right? He's the one. He's the one that's always making the sound effects and whatnot. For you young folks, Police Academy is this really funny movie about a police force and these kind of misfits to the police force, right? But Motormouth Jones is really one of the stars of the show. But he's using a megaphone and using sound effects throughout it, and it's called Police Academy, which would tie into this. Fritz is something not acting right, malfunctioning, it's a state of disorder, disrepair, right? But normally it's something not acting right. If something's on the fritz, it's going bad. Now, I would say, wouldn't relate to the rogue vocoder blitz, right? I would think, if you've never struggled in life to at least a serious degree of struggle, you're not going to relate to the police blitzing the crowd using megaphones trying to control people, right? How he spoke through a no-dose motor on the fritz. That could be that you say the fritz, something in disorder, right? Something not acting right, a state of disorder, right? It could be a protest. He spoke through a no-dose motor on the fritz, right? No-dose motor on the fritz could be the motor not acting right, which would make sense because actually Motormouth Jones, and sometimes he didn't even use it. He used his mouth, right? So I don't know. That might be a stretch. But no-dose motor on the fritz, I'm not sure if I'm quite catching that. But because he wouldn't play rollover and fetch like a bitch, it means they wouldn't just do what you want them to do. Why? Because they don't believe in it, right? If somebody's not rolling over like a bitch, they're not doing what you want them to. All right. So you think about a protest. Why are they protesting? How do they feel about the police? Right? Why are they using a megaphone trying to get control of the situation? But he's not going, right? He's not moving. They're not listening to you. See, again, he's talking about some things, right? Yeah, it's because he wouldn't play rollover fetch like a bitch. And then he goes to and express no regrets, though he isn't worth a homeowner's piss. Sounds like he's not getting much money for what he believes in, right? But he still doesn't have any regrets compared to dudes that are jokers, right? They ain't shit, right? They're who pose by the glitz, right? Maybe they're posing for the wrong reasons. Maybe it's selfies. Maybe it's so there's different ways. And again, you can also relate this. I know when I first heard the song and he talks about buttery gold, I immediately thought about rap chains, right? Chains and rap, and you could almost think of your lyrics doing bad in the hood, right? Someone in hip hop using a megaphone to, yeah, throw your hands in the air, right? And they might, somebody who stayed true to himself and never sold out, right, has no regrets, though he's not worth much on paper, but he's still, in his mind, worth more than the jokers who pose by the glitz, right? The glamour and fame and do things for all the wrong reasons, right? Sign of the swine and the swarm. Um, that's different, right? Because you think of swine. Swine is another word for pig or hog, right? But these are generic terms. They don't really mean gender, size, or anything. But you talk of swine, you're normally talking about pigs. When you talk about pigs, you're normally talking about cocks, right? When a king is a whore who comply and conform. Wow, just leaders not being accountable, right? The king, when a king is a whore, but he's doing things for the wrong reasons. Maybe they can be corrupt, right? They can be corrupted easily.
King is a whore, complying, conform. Eyes outside in the eye of the storm, with a sight for the lore and a prize and award, while avoiding the violent bazaar that is violence and war. True blue triumph is.
Yo, and now it makes me bring back, I think this is for sure about the police, right? You're seeing miles outside the eye of the storm, right? The eye of the storm, if you think of a hurricane and you're looking at a meteorologist as giving you the whole breakdown, you'll normally see the eye of the storm and it's eerily quiet, right? Because all the destruction is happening around it. But eventually that eye is going to move and then you're not in the eye of the storm anymore. But and he talks about miles outside the eye of the storm. It's like these officials, these corrupt officials or kings, they're not in the storm, right? They're not in the storm, but they have a siphon, right? When you think of siphon, it's where you siphoning the gas out of somebody's truck. Like, yo, I ain't gonna fill up today. Take it out of this beater that I'm not using anymore before I junk it. Shit, I just put a full tank in. Right? That's siphoning something out. But what he's saying is these people that are so-called leaders, they're not even in the fight, right? They're corrupt people. They're siphoning out a prize and an award, right? But they're avoiding what's actually happening, right? All the garbage and all the craziness, the violence and war, it's all happening in the fight, and they're not even in it, right? They're from a position of luxury. They're just kind of outsiders looking in. He said, "True blue triumph is more." Right? True blue. You normally think of blue as you think of officers, right? A stream of blue or a field of blue. They say about themselves, right?
Like wait, let him snake it better than centerfold. Let him break the walls of Jericho. Ready, go. Set where the old cardboard city swap.
You know what? That's funny because he's also relating it back, and that's where he's talking about the megaphone, right? Because when he said, well, like, wait, let it snake up out the centerfold, right? Let it come up, let it break the walls of Jericho, right? The city of Jericho, and again, I'm not the most religious person. My references aren't always on point, but I do know basic stories like the city of Jericho, right? It was surrounded by walls so that no one was able to get in, and the walls served as the protection against attacks. Now, the gates have been locked, right? They were trying to keep Israelites out. And then when the army comes, right, then they have to go around it like 7 times, something like that. And then the trumpet sounded and the army shouted. And then when the trumpets were sounding, right, or they were using some sort of device to amplify or, right, it's hard to think about this because they're saying it's an actual trumpet, but you have to think it's some sort of device. Then the wall started to collapse and then everybody came in and then they overtook the city, right? So, he was doing, it could also lead to, like when he talked about corrupt leaders, right? When you're talking about overthrowing something, right? You're overthrowing or you're changing the hands of power, if you would, right? There's Joshua led the Israelites to do what God had instructed. And the Israelites being obedient to what God instructed, that's why on the 7th day, the walls of Jericho fell. And then it was like power, to God, right? So let's break down the walls of Jericho. He could be talking about maybe using a trumpet, using some sort of megaphone to tear down the walls, maybe the barriers. You think of protesting. So there's a lot of different interpretations for that. He said, sat where the old cardboard city folk swap tails with heads like every other penny throw. What I think of first is, he's down with the homeless folk. Right? When you talk about sat where the old cardboard city folk, cardboard, right? Cardboard boxes, cardboard houses. These are bums that he's talking about. Swap tails with heads like every other penny throw. When you talk about heads, these are folks that are, how would you say, like, it's playing it obviously over heads, swap tails with heads like every other penny throw. But heads are like in the hood. You talk about like old heads, right? Young heads, young cats. But that's another way of saying dudes. Or like, he's talking to bums and they're swapping tails. And, corruption has been going on for years. And who sees it the most, right? The people out here living in these streets. They see it. They're dealing with the police every day. So I think that's a really interesting way with him talking about, he's down with the homeless folks. And they'll tell you how things were, right? Things back then were as fucked up as they are now. With anybody who might throw some change, right? They'll talk to.
Tails with heads like every other penny. And I will remember your name and face on the day you were judged by the funhouse cast. Still rejoicing your fall from grace when I came to the skyline. Not shall pass.
I'm trying to help.
Okay, well, to a grocery list goes like this: duty and death. Anyone object, come stand in the way. You could be my little Snake River Canyon.
That's interesting because he's saying duty and death, right? These are definitely things that are specific to police officers. He said, anyone object, come stand in the way. He could be talking about protesting, right? Like he's talking about, and he said woke. That I did not notice before, right? Let's run it back, make sure we didn't miss anything.
I'm trying to help.
Flash that buttery gold, jittery zeitgeist with about a watering hole. Water patrol, water we the heart, how could be art fuckery suddenly? Not enough young and his long.
I'm trying to help.
Flash that buttery gold, jittery zeitgeist with about a watering hole. Water patrol, water we the heart, how could be art fuckery suddenly? Not enough young and his.
He said.
With about a.
I'm trying to help.
Flash that buttery gold, jittery zeitgeist with about a watering hole. Water patrol, water we the heart, how could be art fuckery suddenly? Not enough young.
I thought that he was referring to a dude, right? I was thinking of Mike Huckabee, right? And then later in the song, he refers to the dude. I think his last name might be Huckabee. But there's a movie, right? There's a movie called I Heart Huckabee. And it's got to be from the early 2000s. So it would definitely fall in line. And the movie is about the police. I'm willing to bet that he's tying this in. I don't remember a lot about the movie. I don't think I finished it. But it was like, it was definitely one of those quirky kind of, witty for sure. Witty and intellectual, but very quirky, right? It's about, there's these two detectives, right? And there's a really good cast, right? You got the Dustin Hoffman's in this, Jude Law, Mark Wahlberg, but there's a pair of detectives, and I don't. They're trying to do something. They're hired by this, but they're for sure detectives. It's something about like the meaning of life, right? And they're they have to interpret like it's weird. It's like one of those stories. I don't know if you guys ever seen. It's a 21 grams. 21 grams. Is it 21 grams? 27. 21. It's like the 21 grams is about like the amount of weight supposedly you lose when you die. Now, not outside of you know, releasing on yourself, but they say you lose a little bit of weight, and some people have tried to say that that's the weight of the soul, right? But anyway, that movie is about how different people interact, and it's Benicio del Toro. But anyway, this movie, I Heart Huckabee, I was kind of like that with the police there, like investigating and the different stories intertwined. But it's definitely about these police detectives, which would also tie in to the storyline. That's again, it's called I Heart Huckabee. Huckabee's is actually in the story. Huckabee's is a corporation, right? It's this big, you know, the Walmart or Sam's Club of its day, and they work there. The people that the detectives are pursuing, they work there. It's an older movie. I'm definitely gonna have to go back to it. It's one of those that I think if you're into Aesop Rock, hey, you'll probably be into a movie like this, right? It's something that's more intelligent. But if you're watching it with like your girlfriend, she'll probably be like, not to say your girlfriend's not smart, right? I'm just saying that it's one of those movies like, what are they talking about, right? Like I try to play mystery fish for my wife, and she was like, "What the fuck is he saying?" I'm like, probably isn't for you, right? Not to say that my wife is very smart, but they just don't look at music like that, right? But no, I'm glad we caught that. I still want to go back after the video and see if the dude in I believe his name is Huckabee, the dude that played the boyfriend in that movie. But I can't think of his first name for the life of me. But I'm willing to bet that he was in this other movie. I just can't think of it, but it was something about God. And that would make sense with the interpretation of like being judged and being judged by God. But I'm definitely, I'm thinking he's talking about the officers that are in this movie, I Heart Huckabee. Let's get back to it. Yeah, I'm glad. Man, it's true what they say, right? A lot of people have told me, like, man, Aesop Rock, every time you rewind a song and you listen to it, it's like, whoa, I didn't catch that the first time, and I'm definitely seeing that. But I still want to do these live, right? I don't want to go back, pause, and I want to try to get the, you know, what I think is happening in the song. Let's run it back here. I'll just let it ride for a little bit.
It's nothing trying to help.
Oh,
That's that buttery gold.
Right, the officer.
Water patrol. What are we the heart Huckabee?
Right, the officer. This is the officer. He's getting older, right? He's withering away. He's drinking. He's talking about what a patrol. He's reminiscing on life or reminiscing with his partner. And he says, what are we to Heart Huckabee, art fuckery suddenly? I think he's talking about these detectives in the movie I Heart Huckabee, right? And they're talking about what does it mean to exist? What is, right? They're exploring life, and they're exploring these three people that work at the store called Huckabees. Not enough young in his lung for the water wings. It could possibly be saying like, yo, again, he's getting older. There's not enough young in his lungs to blow up the water wings, right? He's just getting older, and he can't do the things that he used to do.
Not enough young in his lung for the water wing, colorfully bold poacher at him.
Right, and now we're talking about not just detectives, not just police, and he's drinking, and he's getting older, but he's also starts to talk about dirty cops, right? Dirty cops, and like, yo, I'm tired of this. I can't do things the way I once did. Maybe he's seen so much violence in this world, you know. So he's like, yo, you know, he's talking about being a dirty cop, right? He's a vulgar poacher out of mud, out of mulch, right? So, got to pick up this call real quick. Yellow, at a rental property in Chicago, and I had somebody from the water department, and there's like, you use 90,000 gallons of water. And I'm like, oh man, it sounds like they got me for my pipes again. right? It's the second time, man. I swear Chicago is just a shit show, man. But anyway, back to this. He's talking about being a dirty cop, right? He said, I'm a pull the pulse out of soldier and bolt. And it's kind of funny because it's in quotations, right? So it's not like this is something, I'm kind of getting the impression that this is happening while he's at the bar drinking. He's getting older and he's pissed off at what he's seen in the world, which we can actually coordinate to eye for eye, right? It's like, man, these dudes are out here killing police. I'm going to go out here and kill these dudes, right? Which would make me tie in that eye for an eye. He said, and it's in quotes, I'm going to pull the pulse out of soldier and bolt, right? I'm going to do to them what they're doing to us. They like killing cops. We're going to kill some thugs, right? We're going to kill some out here, these soldiers. And the dude, maybe it's the other dude, they just ain't fine, sign of the time, right? A primate climbs up your spine and attach. So it sounds like either they've done this before, but they're getting addicted to the torture and the pain of seeing others in misery and pain or inflicting pain.
Like I'm a protocol set of soldier and bolts. Sign of the time we elapsed when a primate climb up a spine and attach. And I better block like swamps and blinds to get a rise out of fox and flies.
Right, and now he's talking about, eye for an eye. They want to kill us, we're going to kill them, right? It's the bog life. These dudes are struggling. They're in the trap. They're struggling through life, right, in the swamp. And these police are swinging by on vines, and they're just picking them off, right? They said they get a rise out of frogs and flies. They like seeing people struggle. They like seeing people get hurt or killed, and it's not right, right? So somebody's when there's a fight and someone is already hogtied, right? They're in cuffs already. It's not even a fight anymore, right? Leave the man alone. Let him live. And he said the prize sort of cost a life, right? Because you don't really value the life of a black man or a minority man. Black lives matter, but they can also be a play on black men black people in general being considered 3/5 of a man, right? Because it sort of cost a life. The mouse water on a fork and knife, right? Because we've already said the police they enjoy seeing this, right? They enjoy seeing this, the mouse water on a fork and knife. They're just eating it up, right? And again, the allure isn't right. This is something they shouldn't be doing. There's no score on a war-torn beach. He's saying, eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. We can't do this. We have to stop, right? A war-torn beach could be in an inner city hood. This is where this is where people actually beef, right? These thugs, these dudes actually have problems, but it's different, right? And blood turns to wine when it leaks for police. It's blood when we're talking about black on black crime. It's blood when we're talking about genocide or massacre, but when it's police, they're actually celebrated for what they do. These dudes, contractors I just sent them to that house, and he just sent me a video. It's just like 2 feet of water in the basement. It doesn't look like they robbed me for the copper, but it looks like the pipes burst with the weather we've been having. And haven't been to that house in a while. It's always something going down in Chicago, I swear. But anyway, blood turns into wine, right? People are celebrated, and it's looked at different when it's a police-involved shooting, right? And he's like, it's not a riot, it's a feast. Let's eat. It could be the people and police having different perspectives on looking at the same thing, right? It's always like, was it a justified shooting? What was he reaching for? But in this case, they're looking at it as a riot. Some people are probably planning it as a peaceful protest, but some cops, right, it's not a riot, it's a feast. There's different perspectives within the police force itself. And he's saying, let's eat. Why? Because they have a need for that, right? There's an addiction to violence. They're addicted to trying to do eye for an eye. Oh, you want to kill our brothers? Oh, you hate police, right?
The cash cows actually pay for blood turns wine when I leave for police like that's not a riot, it's a beastlet. And I will remember your name and face when I tell you a judge for the front house cast. Yes, you're a fool.
And now now he's saying, I'll remember your name and face on the day you are judged by the Funhouse cast. The Funhouse cast, there's definitely a dude with the last name Huckabee, and that dude has also played, I don't remember the name of the movie, but I want to say, I should just figure out his name real quick. What is it? Funhouse cast, right? Huckabee. I don't know how he's spelling it. Cooper Huckabee. Yeah, Buzz. That was his name. Cooper Huckabee. He plays Buzz Dawson. But Cooper Huckabee, now that I know his name, he was in another movie. I didn't even know he was related to Mike Huckabee, or could be. It was this movie about gods and generals. Woo! Look at that, connecting the dots. And I don't know if this would be a tie-in, but it could be like he said. I remember the day. I'll remember your name and face on the day you are judged by the Funhouse cast. He's connecting Huckabee with Huckabees from earlier, right? I Heart Huckabee. But it could also be connecting it to this movie Gods and Generals, where he's, you're going to be judged by God one day on what you're doing today, and I will rejoice in your fall from grace, right? You're not looked at as this cop anymore. And then I look with the cane, you shall not pass, right? Now let's let it ride.
Grace for the king to the sky like none shall pass.
Right, and now he's saying if you never had a day that couldn't that a snow cone couldn't fix, right? If you never had a day that wasn't this is not just a first world problem, right? Or I love ice cream cone wouldn't turn that frown upside down, right? You probably can't relate to the song. You probably can't relate to a rogue cop with a megaphone blitzing the protests, right? And hitting people and forcibly removing people, right? That how he spoke through a no-dose motor on the fritz. Different interpretations of that, but how he spoke through maybe somebody that's just been no-dose and caffeine, right? They haven't slept in a while, right? Is it something where they say how he spoke through a no-dose motor could also be a play on Motor Mouth Jones Police Academy on the fritz, right? This is something where maybe this dude hasn't had any sleep, all right? He's things are malfunctioning, things aren't working right. Could be the corruption of the police force as well. But why is it that maybe we're judging people because they wouldn't roll over? Maybe the people at the protest, they won't roll over and play fetch like a bitch. They're not going with the demands, right, of the norm, right? They're outside of the norm. And most of these people that go against the norm, they're normally not worth much, right, financially, but they're still worth more than the jokers who pose by the glitz, right? People that like fame, fortune, they want to see their name in the paper, right? These people, they might look like they're worth much, but they're really not. Sign of the swine in the swarm. Protesting, right? It could be protest, the sign of the swine. Swine is normally a pig or a hog. Pigs are normally what you would call cops, right? When a king is a whore who comply and conform, you're probably talking about, some sort of leader who's corrupt, right? They comply and conform for the wrong reasons. This king or this leader who's corrupt, they're not even in the storm itself, but they're siphoning, right? Like you might siphon gas, but they're taking something out. They're taking out a prize, an award from the hood, or saying they're doing all this good, but they're really not even part of the actual fight. They're avoiding all the nonsense that comes with being with violence and war. true blue triumph is more. Blue triumph, true blue, right? You could be talking about the police force in general.
Sight for the lore and a prize and award while avoiding the violent bizarre that is violence and war. True blue triumph is war like weight. Let him slank it by the centerfold. Let him break the walls of Jericho. Ready, go.
You know, breaking the walls of Jericho could be, again, using a megaphone, right? Using some sort of instrument. You're trying to break the crowd, right? And they're trying to break the walls, right? When you protest, you put up these barriers. It sounds like things are getting violent, right? And he said, I sat with the old cardboard city folk. I sat with the bums and the homeless people, and we swapped tales with the old heads, right? About swap tails like heads, like every other penny thrown, heads or tails, right? Probability, right? But he's talking with old heads, penny throw, like you might give a bum some pennies, but they're swapping tales about police corruption and how things have been that way for a very long time.
When the old cardboard city folks swap tails with heads like every other penny. And I will remember your name and face on the day you were judged by the funhouse cast. Still rejoicing your fall from grace when I came to the skyline. None shall pass. None shall pass. None shall pass.
Yeah, he's saying, I'm trying to help you, right? You're supposed to be here to serve and protect. But there's a reason he's remixing I'm trying to help you, because it's another, he's not really helping, right? Or they could be helping, but helping themselves or helping for the wrong reasons.
Okay, woke to a grocery list.
I think it's kind of important that he said woke, right? Because people use woke and now it's a term that's not cool anymore. But a lot of people think this is a term that it's something that happened over the Donald Trump administration or over the Obama administration. Man, this is something, I don't know if you guys know, on this channel, Blackish University. Now, we talk about a lot of history and points in time. We talk about Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, but we also take it back to people like Marcus Garvey, right? He's been using the term woke. Marcus Garvey, he had this, he used to say, wake up, Ethiopia, right? Wake up, Africa, right? It's a call to Black citizens to become more socially and politically conscious, right? So the term woke goes way back. There was actually a 1938 song, and it was called Stay Woke, right? And it was actually a protest song, which would actually go very well with this. But the protest song is from this blues musician, and he used to call himself Leadbelly, right? I think his name is Letbetter. But anyway, the song, it describes, in 1931, there was a group of teenagers. There was 9 black teenagers. They were in Arkansas, and they were accused of raping 2 white women. And again, we hear this with Emmett Till. We hear this with different things, right? This isn't something you would do back in the day. And during this song, Leadbelly, he says in the music, and he said when he was explaining his music, he says, I advise everybody, right? Be a little careful when they go along their way. It's best to stay woke, right? Keep your eyes open. That's what it means, right? Black Americans need to be aware of racially motivated threats, right? And the potential dangers of, I guess you would call white America or the powers that be, right? So he could be talking about that. I just think it's very, one thing that I've noticed with Aesop Rock is it might look like gibberish. It might look like he just put a word in because it fits. This guy's vocabulary is way more complex to want to have to put woke in. If he didn't want to say woke, he wouldn't have said woke, right? There's so many other, you can get a thesaurus out and do that, but I think he's referring to woke in that sense. But he also references duty and death, right? That's police, right? You're a cop until the day that you die. There's always that sense of duty. And he says, anyone, what does he say? Anyone standing in the way, you can be my little Snake River Canyon today. I don't know if you guys remember, what was that? Evil Knievel, right? That's the death jump, right? That's the canyon that he was jumping from. But he said, anyone object, object could it be judge or trial, right? Or or anyone objecting to his duty and death, right? To the police officer, anybody who stands in his way. But it goes to show you that protesting, that could be someone standing in the way too. But if you know anything about Little Snake River, there's actually Little Snake River. It's a canyon that was formed in the I believe it's Idaho, if I'm not mistaken. But it was actually the site of an unsuccessful jump for Evil Knievel, right? And there's actually a whole story that goes into it. Basically, Evil Knievel, he wanted to do this jump, or he wanted to jump the Grand Canyon, I believe. But it was the U.S. Department of Agriculture that said that he couldn't do it. So when they said no, he actually bought his own land that was right next to the canyon, and then he went to jump it, but it didn't go well. In fact, it was a unsuccessful attempt at jumping it. But that somebody standing in your way, like the U.S. Department of Agriculture would have stood in his way. It's just saying there's another way around things, but it could mean protest, and it could be objecting like you would in court. But that's what he's referring to when he says Little Snake River Canyon today. You could be my Little Snake River Canyon today, which means they're either going over you, like, if you want to stand in the way, I'll just go over you. It's just incredible writing.
Goes like this, duty and death. Anyone object, come stand in the way. You could be my Little Snake River Canyon today. And around with a chain of commands and a jetpack strap with a backstab lands if I can.
Now, a jetpack strap could be also tying it to Evil Knievel, which was part of that story, right? He used to always put those, ride motorcycles, really anything that pushed the limits of what he could do. But I ran with a chain of commands. That's talking about a police force, right? There's definitely a chain of command in the police force. He said, sign of the vibe in the crowd. I think that's, you think about a protest, right? Or a sign actually there. There's some wordplay there. When I cut a belly open to find what climbs out, he's talking about the belly of the beast, right? Belly of the beast, it means really being in the middle of a really bad situation. Kind of like he said, the eye of the hurricane. You could say the belly of the beast, right? If you go into enemy headquarters, right, you're talking about being in the belly of the beast, just like he might be if he were in the center of a protest, right? And there's all these things happening. People don't like the police. They're protesting. He's feeling the vibes in the crowd. They have signs, right? He's going up the chain of command, but he's like, he's going to cut the belly of the beast to find what climbs out.
Sign of the vibe in the crowd. When I cut a belly open to find what climb out. Cause what a bit of gusto we must erupt to make a dark horse.
Gusto, you don't really hear that anymore, but that's like nerves, right? That's he said it's quite a bit of gusto he musters up. It's enjoyment in doing something, right? So maybe he mustered up the courage to work there. I'm not sure what a bit of gusto he mustered up. A dark horse is it's a competitor that you don't know too much about him, but they unexpectedly win, right? The dark horse won. That could be to make a dark horse rush, like enough's enough, right? These protesters are winning. Enough's enough. That's why they're protesting, right? They're sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? But he's still a cop, right? He said, what a bit of gusto he mustered up. Maybe he actually believes that there's corruption, there's things going on, right? People are pissed. He said it must have struck a nerve, so they huff and puff. Who? Right? Who's huffing and puffing? What is he if he's who's huffing and puffing? Is it the protester? You struck a nerve with the protester, or you struck a nerve with the police? You're talking about corruption, and now they're huffing and puffing. To make it dark horror, so nervous. Struck a nerve could be like feeling jittery, right? That's what he said in the very opening. He's nervous. Why is he nervous? Because all this corruption, people are protesting, and he knows he's part of the problem. It's really interesting that he says to all the king's men, fluster and clusterfuck. Right? All the king's men. That's a story. It's older, but it's about the rise of a politician. What's his name? It's I want to say Stark, but I might be thinking of Iron Man, right? But I don't remember his name. But basically, this guy goes from. It kind of reminds me of what's that movie with? It's not Chris Tucker. It's like wrong black comedian, right? No, we don't all look alike, right? What does Dave Chappelle say? Some people say we all look alike. We call those people the police, right? God damn, I can't think of Chris Rock. Chris Rock is in this movie where he's a politician. He's like this local politician, but they need someone that can fall so that the next election, they can put their own candidate in place. They don't want to put somebody in office that actually has a chance. So they take this like low-level alderman who's Chris Rock, and then he becomes a little bit corrupt, but then he kind of straightens out at the end. It's a story that's very similar to that. It's called All the King's Men. Along the way, he loses his innocence, and he becomes just as corrupt as those that he used to talk about, right? Which would really make sense when we're talking about police corruption. It could be a man that, somebody who wanted to do good and serve the community, but he's caught in this clusterfuck, right?
And fluster and clusterfuck, and it's a beautiful thing. Tell my people who keep it impressed will expand, even when the kid will shrink. You gotta pull up the intruder by the root of the weed.
See, now that's really interesting that he says that, because to keep an impressive wingspan, right? What is he talking about? Is he talking about a weapon? Is he talking about embracing someone? You keep an impressive wingspan even when the cubicles shrink. Now, there's an urban terminology to this. If you talk about if you talk about a wingspan, it's a way for it's. I don't know if this is right or not. I've learned this along the way. I was a fraternity guy, so don't judge me. But when you want to talk about how big a guy's penis is, or how big would be appropriate for a girl, there's a test, and you test out the wingspan. You take your finger and you fold in the three middle fingers, right? Why does it look like I'm a Ninja Turtle or something? You fold down the three fingers and you spread out, almost like gnarly, dude, gnarly, right? But the span is called the wingspan. From the edge of your pinky to the top of your thumb, that's how big your penis should be. Looks about right. I don't know. But an impressive wingspan. He could be talking about cops that think they got a big dick, right? People that are, people who keep an impressive, to my people who keep an impressive wingspan, even when the cubicle shrinks, right? You could be thinking about what does your dick do, right? It shrinks around cold water, cold weather, right? But a cubicle, when the office gets smaller, right? So it could be a play on there. I don't know if he's definitely doing that, but that's what, when you're talking about wingspan from an urban perspective, that's normally what they're talking about. And it could coincide with this when you start talking about something shrinking. What is it? Is your office shrinking? People keep an impressive wingspan even when the cubicles shrink. You got to pull up the intruder by the root of the weed, right? So when you there's actually a song, a poem that's talking about grass. It's an old civil rights leader, someone from the Black Panther Party, and she put together "Grasp by the Root," basically saying if you're gonna get rid of anything, or if somebody is, maybe somebody's an enemy, right? And they said an intruder. You got to stop it. You got to get to the root of the problem, right? So if there's a problem with police brutality, you got to get the root of the problem. Is it the leaders? Is it the police force? What's happening? And then he says, New York, NY, chew through the machine, right? The machine, that's also a political term. We have the machine, they call the politics in Chicago, right? I don't know if they refer to that in New York, but he might be saying, yo, get through all the bureaucracy, right? Chew through the machine and get to the root of the problem, the source of the problem. Yo, I think I'm on point with my police brutality and police mix, but man, I'm really interested to hear what other people think. What was your interpretation of the breakdown? What do you guys think about this? This is something that came out in 2013, so I'm sure there's a lot of old heads that are like, oh, wait, this and this. So I'm really interested in that. Hopefully I did this song some justice, but really interested to get into my next Aesop rock. This was definitely difficult, but it wasn't impossible. And I think I hopefully got to there was a point when I was like, am I on the right track? He could be talking about rap, but I think there's so many references to police and the police force and protesting that, the process of elimination. I just think that it's more likely that he's talking about police force and police brutality. Hope you guys like it. I don't know why there's still so much time on the video. Let me just let it ride in case there's any little tidbits or an outro of sorts. And man, if you guys are a fan of the intellectual breakdowns and love intellectual music, man, show me some love and, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're really growing our platform. We've gotten to almost 700 subscribers in just 2 months. And I really plan on using this platform for good and continuing with breakdowns like this. So, if you're a fan, I look forward to seeing you guys on other videos.